Welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast, where we mix business, law of attraction, spirituality, and well-being with great guests and phenomenal stories. You'll hear hints, tips, and up-to-the-minute information on digital communication from an expert in her field. Pearl has some wonderful individuals in her networks, and she will be interviewing them all at some point in the future. Enjoy your listening.
Hello and welcome to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast. Now, my guest today is a very, very special person. He means an awful lot to me. Basically, he's helped change my life for the better in so many wonderful ways. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Craig Richardson, who is one of the co-founders of Serenity Radio. And if you listen to my radio show on Serenity, you'll hear me mention Craig and Michelle so often. And it is wonderful, wonderful to actually have Craig as my guest. Welcome, Craig.
Hi, Pearl, and thanks very much for having me.
Thank you. I'm so looking forward to this. As most of the listeners will know from my podcast, I go through a list of questions so we can get to know people. So can we start just by jumping in, Craig? Can you describe your career path to date, please?
Okay, well, that's a little bit of an open-ended question because I guess it's really been instilled on me from my family history. My dad is ex-military, my brother is ex-military. And we were a random family living on a council estate in Newcastle, and we didn't really have, really too much money to spare for a lot of the food back in the days of the 80s and the early 90s. So my dad was always a hard worker. So was my granddad and all my family. So I knew the importance of a career was to get out there and work, and that's what would make the money and provide for the family. My career really started, I guess, as early as 11 years old. And it was in and around school. I would go out and set up a market stall with fruit and vegetables on a Wednesday before school. I'd go to school, I would do the schooling, I'd come back, I'd do 1 hour of selling fruit and vegetables, and I'd help pack up the market stall. The same market stall owner then asked me whether I would work on a Saturday, which I accepted. And I worked selling fruit and vegetables from the early hours of the morning on a Saturday all the way through to the late evening on the same day, pack up the market stall, and that would be me done. During the summertime, he also had his own other business other than the markets on a Wednesday and a Saturday, making concrete slabs for paving slabs for people's gardens. So again, at the age of 11 years old, on a Sunday, I was helping him mix concrete, shingle, sand and cement, and adding water, putting it through a big mixer and wheelbarrowing it in there so he could make the concrete slabs. So I'd started appreciating the hard work from the age of 11, and I made very, very good money from that. Whilst going through school, I then found an opportunity doing, I guess, business to consumer calls, telephone calls, ringing people up in the house, trying to sell them water coolers for the health benefits of mineral water and spring water in the house rather than using tap water. And I did that a couple of evenings a week towards the end of my age 15, 16. And then I went full time with them, and I honestly thought that this was going to be a job for life. I'd gone up through, skipping forward a few years. I went through, finished as the youngest sales and marketing director for the company. And the company's name at that point when I left was the Danone Group. They own Evian Water and the French yogurt Danones. I was their youngest sales and marketing director, and I thought this was definitely a job for life. And then different things happened. I reached as far as I could go with them, and I decided to do something else. And I went on to do some contracting work as a consultant for British Telecom and help with the transition from, basically the transitional period from moving everything from the offshore platform to wholesale in that point. And again, I was one of their youngest that they had in that. So I'd worked up a very, very good career path and networked very, very well in my younger years. But it wasn't really a true aspiration of mine, which I'm sure we'll cover a little bit later on. So you can find out what my aspiration is. But I've done everything from working petrol stations on an evening and night shifts to working in a funeral home. to pass some time as I had downtime from shifts that I was running at the time. So I've literally done a lot of different areas to get to where I am to today.
And this is just so fantastic. Just hearing this, you are phenomenal. I know I say that word a lot, but you are. You're just a true entrepreneur. Everything you seem to touch, you add something extra to it, and it's just wonderful to actually. I'm so glad that you're sharing the story, so we could then share it with everyone else and see just how much you put into everything you do. And already, I mean, the listeners can hear the passion with which you talk about the work you've done. And I'm going to move on from that. Can you name 3 things that made you choose your current career and why? You might have touched on a bit of that before.
Yeah, okay. So I guess my current career, Serenity Radio is not the only thing that I'm invested in. In fact, I'm invested in quite a few different projects at the same time. I guess my day-to-day career is in aviation. I work within the aviation sector. And I am a qualified pilot, and I have my own aircraft in the UK, which I use for business and pleasure. So I really, really enjoy aviation as a career, and I enjoy that immensely. But I'm not just encapsulated into one thing. I think for me, my brain is always active. I mean, I have to go to bed with a pack of Post-it notes because I'll wake up at 2:00 in the morning to go to the toilet, and I have this brainwave. And I will touch base on something like that later on when I talk about Serenity a little bit more. But I find myself involved in quite a lot of things. I help invest in family businesses. I also do a few other bits and pieces along the side. And Serenity is one of those as well. But at the moment, I'm very much heavily invested in the Serenity project.
Yeah, and it's brilliant. Well, you know, I love Serenity and everything, the ideas behind it and everything. I'll always share the work that you're doing there. I'm also going to ask you, what key values does your business offer you? Because everything you do has that passion behind it. It's been great to see the key values.
Yeah, I mean, my values, I take my values as I approach life, and that's very much the case of being authentic. If you're not authentic, then you can't relate to somebody. If you can't relate to them, you're not going to do business with them. So that's definitely one, being authentic. Being honest and upfront is something that I am really passionate about. Again, to be able to do business with somebody, you've got to be able to trust them. You've got to be able to say that if you give me a deadline, you're going to keep to that deadline. And if you're not, you're going to tell me I can't meet that. And I much prefer to be honest, upfront, and authentic about that as well. And I guess passion is the other one. I feel people need to have a passion for life. They need to have a passion for business, because if they have no passion, there is definitely no way they can advance forward and be their true self. And business and personal life is exactly the same. Many people have visions of their future, but only so many people will go and chase that vision. And I am a visionary, and I will go for that vision, and I will go beyond that because I know I can achieve more than what my vision is.
And this is what I love to hear. Very, very similar in the way I approach things, where I have something, I've got a goal, and I will just keep going, and I will keep going. And once I reach that, I'll go further. But I'm also the most competitive person I know. So I tend to, I compare what I did the year before to see whether I've done better the next year.
Well, you mentioned earlier about 3 things that got me to where I was.
Yeah.
And I didn't really touch much on that. But one of the things that I forgot to say really is the reason why I went down the line of aviation, from the sales, the marketing, the customer service, was because I was told that I couldn't do it. And when somebody says I cannot do it, It is my one's life goal to turn around and say, you were wrong. And it's very poignant here. You know, your listeners, whether they be small independent business owners, or whether they be large corporate businesses, or maybe it's just a student that has come across your podcast and think, what is this about? All I will say to you is that if you have a goal, go for it. Don't ever let anyone tell you you cannot do that or achieve your goal, because only you can control your destiny. And if you take that into your hands and grasp it tightly, you can do and achieve whatever you want to do in life. You just have to believe in yourself.
I couldn't agree more with that. That is just fantastic. And I think that's a way of life that more and more people should approach, but they won't. There's only so many that will actually do that. They like it, they like the idea, but they can't follow through and actually do the work to achieve these things.
Yeah.
I'm going to throw this one in. Everyone tells me, I brought this from my corporate days when I used to interview CEOs and everything. So I bring this in just to say, what keeps you awake at night, Craig?
Failure. Failure is what keeps me awake at night. If I set my mind on a goal, and if I use Serenity as a prime example, this was created to give something back to people. This was brought in at a time where people were at their lowest point. This was a point in which the world shifted and a reset button was hit. And I am just as much to blame as everyone else. I was enjoying life. I got complacent with life, got complacent on being able to rely on shops being open all the time, to going out when I wanted, doing what I liked, and just sitting in coffee shops and working. We became reliant upon that and the technology that comes around, the computers and the internet. We were then faced with a situation where this was all stripped back. You know, we couldn't leave a house without a valid reason. You weren't allowed to do this. You weren't allowed to do that. This shop was closed. That shop was closed. And you realize that most of it really did not matter anyway. You don't need a coffee shop. You don't need a pub or a bar or a restaurant. You have everything you have in your own house. And life, as we knew it, was reset. So we brought Serenity Radio on for this reason, to say that everything's been reset now. Now let's start focusing on you and focusing on your well-being. And I guess it's such a big project. There's such a big message to be made, such a big message to push out there to everyone, not just in the UK, but we're licensed in 47 countries now. So we are pushing out worldwide. So you've got an in-house team of 4 people that are purely trying to push a message to the world.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort, and takes a lot of resources. And we have our presenters, you being one of them, and you guys are our family. You're our extended family, and we look at ourselves, me and Michelle, as like the parents trying to look after our kids. You know, it's the world are our children. We're trying to push out and educate, and it's hard work. So with so much focus on Serenity and so much focus on the message that we're trying to give out, my biggest fear that keeps me awake is failing to get the message out to the world. But if I could just make one person change their outlook in life, or they listen to one of our shows and they've changed a part of their life, then surely making one person change their life or have a different opinion on it, surely we've achieved what we want. Yeah. But I won't stop until we've got world domination.
Oh, I like that. The amount of meetings I set up with the title World Domination is brilliant, because you've got so many things. And exactly the ethos that you're sharing, this is why I love Serenity so much. And it is where you can reach out and get that message just to one person. If you've got the right message across to that one person on that day, that it helps them go forward instead of going backwards, it's something you can be proud of. I mean, I know as soon as we started on with Serenity, in my diary, I have all the presenters' shows, when it is, and I block that off. So whenever anyone's doing a meeting with me, it can't be where I'm listening to the show, so I can support the people that are on there. And I love your lunchtime shows. I listen to your evening shows. I listen to Michelle's shows in the morning, and everything, that message that comes across, like your lunchtime shows, there's always a set message that you'll bring every single day, where it's helping people, suggesting for business, different ideas, how to approach things. And it's just wonderful.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you very much.
I'm now going to move on. You might have touched on bits of this, but where and how do you work best, Craig?
Okay, so I love busy places. I love to have interaction with people. if you talk to Michelle, Michelle will probably tell you that I'm not a very effective communicator, and that that is one of my negatives. So if I was ever being interviewed, that's probably one of my negatives that I would have to give. Look, at the end of the day, I like busy places because I like the world being busy around me. Because if they're all busy, I'm there busy. So coffee shops are something that I love working in. I can achieve a lot in a coffee shop. I like to sit there with some coffee. I like to do some work. And when you get that little momentary lapse in memory, you can just look up, just see what other people are doing. And then you think, oh, okay. And then you can go straight back to it. I achieve more of that. So large corporate offices and coffee shops, even airports. I love working in airports and airport terminals. Because I often sit there wondering, who are you? Where are you from? Where are you going? What are you going there for? What are you doing? And I'm a great people watcher. So I love to people watch while working because it helps give me some inspiration and inspires me to do some creative writing and thinking too.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And they always say, if you want something done, ask a busy person, because you're far more engaged and you can literally take an idea and run with it. Someone that is quieter, they think about it for ages, and by the time they've come back with an answer, you've already moved on and done it because you're busy and you're thinking about it. So yes,
I think you need to speak. I think you need to speak to Michelle because I remember a few weeks back I woke up at like 2:00 in the morning. I came up with an idea for the Serenity platform. I wrote about 12 post-it notes. And I thought, okay, I'll go to sleep now. And about an hour later, I still couldn't sleep at 3:00. So I woke up and I created a whole new website and designed and built an entire website just so that like 8:00 in the same morning. And she calls me mad. She reckons I'm mad as a hat because I just go off on random tangents like that. And I work very differently, very, very differently.
I'm loving this because I can see so many similarities in the way you work and the way I work. Because people said to me, why did you post on Facebook at 2:00 in the morning? It's because, again, I call them downloads. If I get ideas, that's it. I know I can't sleep. I've got to wake up and work through it. And it's just going through. So I'm loving this. And I know that the audience will, because we're learning so much information that we can then put into our lives as well. Mm-hmm. I'm now going to ask you, what tools do you use that makes your work life easier?
You know what? I'm going to say this is probably going to be Apple as a product. Apple as a product and a brand is really key and important to me. So being able to have everything synchronized with the one provider does make my life a lot easier. So to have my calendars, to have my iPhone, my iPad, my Mac, and my Apple TV all synchronized, so they all use the same calendar. I'm not trying to use a Google Calendar with a Windows computer and you have the sync issues, or you're trying to use an Apple iPhone with a Google Calendar from a Windows laptop. Everything is synced. So I know as soon as I get a phone call come through on my iPhone, it's going to go on my iPhone, it will ring my Mac, and it will ring my Apple Watch, or it will ring my other devices. So I know that wherever I am, with whatever device I've got, I can still run my business. I can still run my day-to-day and still answer phone calls from more than a telephone. And that really is a crucial part of my day-to-day, because without that connectivity and without that synchronicity of all of my devices, I would pretty quickly cease to function as I do.
Yeah, I think anyone who's listened to my Pearls of Wisdom show on Serenity, my Siri on my watch sometimes joins in on my radio shows, because that's the one thing I forget to turn off. I turn everything else off. And Jo Duckfield listens, and she says, Pearl, Siri always speaks on your watch when you're saying something really important, as if it's saying, yes, you need to listen to that bit. But I've got to say, I have to take my watch off. But like you, Apple, I absolutely love. As we're doing this recording, I've got 3 iPads sitting here as well as the Mac that I'm working from, so I can see certain things. And I wouldn't be without Apple. And that's the only thing I had to do a new Gmail account for. was Calendly to book these, because I tried to connect it to my iOS calendar and it did not want to know. It wasn't getting the right results. So I had to set up a new Gmail account, but then I have it running on the iPad so I can actually see what's happening on a day-to-day basis. So yes, Apple, I think between the two of us, we're probably the best customers they've got, or at least we advertise it well enough for them. We'll have to put
we certainly do.
Yes, we'll have to put a call out and say what we're going to get for free. Can we be ambassadors for Apple?
Would be nice.
It would. Now, this is where I go back into your history, as it were. What would you have done differently in your life if you'd known then what you know now?
That's a really good question. And it's very easy to answer. I wouldn't change anything. And that's quite simply because I am who I am and have got to where I am today because of the mistakes that I've made in life. And I have a great life. I have a very comfortable life. I have lots of friends and family that I love that are still with me, and some that are not with me, but they are still with me in some regards. But I've got to where I have done through making mistakes, and life is full of mistakes. It's not necessarily the problem of making them, it's how you deal with them. If you let the mistake consume you, you become a different type of person. If you say, you know what, I've had a pretty rough life, I'm talking in general here. If people said to themselves, I've had a pretty rough life, you can let that rough life define you, or you can define yourself by saying, okay, I've been played a bum hand here, but you know what, I can make myself better. I can do this better. And, I've been connected with family members of domestic violence. I've been connected with family members who have gone through rape. I've been connected with family members who have got cancer, and we have a horrific cancer rate within our family from my mum's side, and we've been dealt some horrible hands. But it all really depends on how you deal with that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I went into doing some funeral work on a part-time basis. I'm scared of death, but I don't let that define me. So what did I do? I went and worked in a funeral home to see what happened from that element, so I know what I've got to come to. And then when you then get family members say, okay, your nan's just passed away, would you do her embalming? Yes. Why? Because people wanted me, knew that I could be trusted to take care of my relatives. And it's a bit of a morbid subject, I understand that, but it's all about how you define your life and which path you take. And if you're scared about something or worried about something, investigate it, because you may see an end result that says, actually, I'm not scared of that anymore. But it's okay to be scared. Even as a man, it's okay to say, I get scared. I'm petrified of death. I'm petrified of being alone. But I can do something about that.
Yeah.
It's just...
Yeah. And this is where you say you wouldn't change anything. One, that reflects most of the really great guests I've had on the podcast. And that's when you know you're doing your true calling, because you can say, no, I wouldn't change anything because it's made me the person I am now. And where you've said that about having something, facing that fear and doing it anyway and moving on, I think that's where we have our best growth. Because if it's something you don't want to do and you force yourself to do it and you go through it, you grow in yourself, and you also show just how much you can achieve. And next time you want to do something that's slightly pushing you out of the comfort zone, you do it more easily, and that's when you grow even more. And it goes back to where you said about your whole journey. You're prepared to put yourself out and actually grow and learn, and that's where you've got as far as you have now. Whereas a lot of people would just sit back and say, no, I don't want to do that. Whereas you've achieved so much, and you will go on to achieve more and more and more, simply because that's the personality and the mentality that you have, which I am absolutely loving. I'm going to have you back as a guest again. I really am, because everything you share, it's so motivational and it gives people ideas. And the fact that you can do it, maybe just one little thing that you mention could be that impetus for someone else to move forward and achieve. And if they're having a bad day and you think, yes, Craig said he could do that, I'm going to try that because they've seen you achieve it. So yeah, absolutely loving this. I'm now going to move on.
I was told by my. I was just one quick thing there, Pearl. I was told by my school that I would never achieve being a pilot because I had some good times and some bad times at school. So when I then became a pilot, I then went back to my same high school and did a careers talk in my full pilot's uniform.
Oh,
and
brilliant.
that was evidence to the teachers that were still there to say, you were wrong, I was right. And that comes down to the point that I say, you can achieve anything you want in life if you just go get it.
Oh, I love this.
So sorry, Phil, your next question.
No, I absolutely love this. And this is what you have got to come back and talk to us some more, Craig, because there's so much that you could teach people. And it is. I'm just going to move on from there and say, what's your biggest challenge and why?
Okay, honestly, working with people is my biggest challenge. I'm great at working on my own. It's not to say that I can't work as a team. I can work as a team, and I do work as a team. But I do struggle because there's not necessarily a trust issue. There's not necessarily a control issue. But I only have one speed, and that's full speed. I don't just sit there at idle throttle, just merrily along the road, doing 20 miles an hour. I'll be 120 miles an hour. And that's what I do. That's how I work effectively. So it's understanding, and it's been more actually since. So being a pilot working in a cockpit environment as a senior captain, you are in control, and your first officer will be sat there and they'll be taking their commands from you, which is fine. But then when you're faced like a situation like me and Michelle, where we're on equal footing, I'm 17 steps ahead of Michelle, and she's further back because she works very differently. And I'm having to learn how to understand how other people work. And in all of my career, I've never really had to think about how somebody else works, because all of my jobs have really been in that point where I'm the one that's either leading it, taking control, or I'm running an area to myself. So, you have these grand titles of manager. Well, you can manage people or you can manage a process. And I've always been a manager of processes, even down to the marketing director and so on with BT as a consultant. There was myself consulting to a board. So I work for myself and do that. With the work that I do for Danone, I started off as being that lonely little telesales person, and I went up through being a manager. But then when you become a manager of people, it's not necessarily looking at the wider picture. It's delegating to your supervisors, the managers below you, to say, you need to report back to me so I understand. And when you have a structure and a process in place, it's very easy to get that feedback that you don't actually have to be involved heavily. Where with Serenity, because it's such a small team, and myself and Michelle and Rob and Joanne are all heavily invested in our own full-time jobs as well as Serenity, we are finding ourselves in 4 different locations. So we have myself in France, we have Joe in Ireland, we have Michelle in London, we have Rob the other side of London. So we're not as if we can meet every day. It's difficult to try and manage and try and work. So on that level, I guess it's trying to understand how to work with people and how other people work. And I'm not very patient with that. So definitely a negative for me.
We are so alike, Craig. We are so alike, because I will go in. From my contracting days, I've got in CEOs, board level, and I've consulted with them and trained them. And you bring people up to a certain level, and then you move on. But I get things quite quickly, and when people don't, I'd say one of my main problems I have no patience. I'm terrible. So people will probably realise that now. And I pick something up quickly. And if someone hasn't picked it up and I have to go back a few steps and teach them how to do it, that's when maybe they see the bad side of me, because I pick it up so quickly and I want to run. And everything you've said, that's exactly the same way as I work, exactly the same way.
I mean, if you look at our positions, Pearl, that we've had previously in previous jobs, etc., for me, I'm so used to being able to go in somewhere, be very direct to the point and say, this is what I need. And in most cases, working with large corporate entities, they have the people there that can give the information. So you walk into a boardroom, you're introducing yourself and you're saying, right, for me to be effective, I need this, 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 and this. They go, okay, you need to this person, this person, this person. They all give you the information. You've got everything you need. But when you have to go looking for the information yourself, or you've asked for the information, you're not getting it back, I struggle with that because that's just not how I usually work. And, you know, I am quite young still in terms of career, but I've achieved a great deal. And I've lived life and got life experience as well. But yeah, I really do need to work on my learning to understand how other people work. And Michelle's probably going to be on their knees right now, praying, saying, thank the Lord. She's only been telling me for months and months and months that she works very differently. So maybe you can edit that bit out for her.
Oh, you inspire so many people, though, Craig. Everything you've said here, I can relate to. Like when I do the stuff with the digital technology teams, they see a woman, they see a blonde-haired woman, but they don't think we'll know tech. And I can go in and I can wipe the floor with them. But a lot of it, I've sort of stepped back and I can say, yes, I can do this, I can do that. It's years since I actually edited videos properly, and it's a massive learning curve. And if you don't do it every day, sometimes you forget. But I can still roll my sleeves up and get my hands dirty and do what people say. But like you say, when we get to a certain level, we're then consulting and sharing our knowledge to bring those people up to where they need to be. But sometimes we can actually say, when people ask the question, I know the conversations I'll ask you about websites is because I know we both know what we need to put in place and everything. So yes, I absolutely love that. But I digress. Again, see, like I said to you, I could talk to you for ages and ages about these different things. Now, this is one that I throw in. I was told, it was Michelle that told me first, she said it's quite egotistical, and I didn't even think about it being part of the ego. But how do you want to be remembered?
That's actually a very difficult question because, again, if you ask Michelle, myself is my very favorite subject. I like talking about myself. Look, I mean, I'd love to be remembered for invoking change. And that's it. I mean, we go through, when we were being brought up as children, like yourself, you had grandparents, you had parents, and they showed you the will of the way. And they've taught you things, and you've made your own assumptions and made your own ways of doing things from the historical way that's been done, and you've made positive changes for your own life. Now, I make positive changes for my own life too, and you know, when I move forward, I hope to change somebody else's life, and hopefully this will be a continue pay it forward situation, that if I can just change one person's life, or even change the attitude or the outlook for, let's say, corporate businesses. I mean, I'm a huge advocate of well-being in the workplace. And I know for a fact that well-being in the workplace is going to suffer. It was already suffering before COVID. Most businesses saw it as a figure on the bottom line, that they've just spent money on X, Y, Z to give their staff a bit of happiness. Well, you know, at the end of the day, the only reason why they're getting money in the business is because the staff at the ground level are the ones that are making it for them. Anyone can sit in their ivory tower and take the cream from the top of the plate, you know. But it's the workers that are at ground level that make the business what it is. They're the ones that speak to the customers. They're the one that understands the customer and the product and the service and the business day to day. And a lot of directors now become very disconnected from that. So your employees are definitely worth investing in. And as I said, a lot of businesses would just look at it as a value, just like they look at an employee as a number. They're just another number on the payroll. And I hate it. I really, before COVID, now it's COVID on the purse strings. I know it's going to suffer even more. And they're going to be getting rid of more staff, and they'll be running the business on smaller staff numbers. But the same amount of staff they got will be asked to do more work. It's going to increase their stress. It's going to increase the way they look at everyday life. They're going to go home thinking, oh no, I've got to get this report done by tomorrow. And a business has a duty of care towards its employee inside the working environment, outside, because they spend most of their time in the working environment. And for that not to have an impact on the personal environment, any business, any owner, and any person would be absolutely bat crazy. I took a word out of there for obvious reasons, but they would be absolutely bat crazy if they didn't think that it would affect a personal lifestyle situation. So businesses need to invest in corporate well-being and well-being of their staff. And I am looking to actively campaign about well-being in the workplace, and I'm even going to be lobbying it with the UK government as well, that we have some state funds put aside to help businesses with workplace well-being. And this is a grant that they can possibly get that would be used purposely for staff well-being. And that is my ultimate campaign and goal here, is to promote corporate well-being. And we all need to be accountable for that, because without it, we're going to be in a very sticky situation 20, 30, 40 years' time.
I couldn't agree more. Where I've done the consulting with government, I was brought in to do the engagement strategy for their recruitment. And one of the first things I said to them is, what's the sickness level? Because if you have a high sickness level in a large corporation, that is reflecting that it's unhappy, that the staff are unhappy, the employees are unhappy, and they're not having their well-being looked after. And also, if you're going to engage with someone and try and bring new blood, new people into a company, you want your current employees to live and breathe and love everything they're doing, because they then become the best people to share the message. And if they're not well cared for, they're not going to feel that they want to share that message. So everything you've said, completely agree. And it is, I mean, I'll join you. I will happily introduce you to the people I've worked with in government, because they're all the people that are doing all that from the HR and the director level. So just shout. That could be another conversation we have externally. But yes, happy to help you with that. Happy to help you with that.
Thank you, Pearl.
I'm now going to move on to this next question. As a child, what did you want to be, and how close to that dream are you now?
Far from it, actually. So I always knew I had a love for aviation. Didn't really decide I wanted to be a pilot. I always said, actually, that I wanted to be a police officer. As I said, we all earlier on, we all have a route in life, and unfortunately, some of my family are. I guess what's the easiest way to say? Some of them took a different direction in life. Therefore, they came into a few sticky situations, which, as a family member, would impact me. And this is a great thing where somebody who is in part of your family, or somebody that is friends or family or a colleague, everyone's actions has an impact on somebody, whether it's yourself or other people around you. So that'd be like going out in a group of friends and somebody hitting somebody. It affects everyone, because everyone will then have to be questioned. Everyone will be saying, well, why didn't you do this? Why did you do that? It leaves yourself to being questioned. And unfortunately, I had one of my family members who went to the correctional facilities here in our lovely UK. And because they had a criminal record, meant I could not, become a police officer, because it was an immediate family. It would compromise me potentially, even though it wouldn't. It could potentially. Cut long story short, it was an aggravated assault. It was a misunderstanding fueled by alcohol. It turned into a fight, and he got arrested for it and was put away for 3 months. And he was let out a month later on good behaviour, because really and truly he didn't really have any history. But because they made an example of him, that made it very difficult for me to follow my career as a police officer because I had a family member that had a convicted criminal record. So I never got anywhere near my dream. The only way I'd ever get to that is if I was to become like a voluntary situation within the organization. But to be fair, that chapter was never meant to be opened in my life. And I've already said that chapter is there with a bookmark in it. And if I, like when you pick up books, you have your bookmark in, you go back to the book. Sometimes you might have 2 or 3 books on the go, as I always do. You might pick that chapter up of your life up again, and you might have such a great way of attacking that. But until then, my life has many other chapters that still need to be read and still need to be thought about.
It's just wonderful. It's lovely to hear that. Yeah, there's definitely so many more podcast interviews I need to have with you now, and where you can share and teach us more things, Craig. Now, this question I put in, and it's a passion of mine. I love books. I love reading. And I will always try and bring... this question is, can you name 3 titles of your favourite books and why you've chosen them? And I know 3 isn't very much. We could probably go into loads, but which books would you recommend?
So I have read a good number of books, and when I was doing the pilot training, there was 15 manuals I had to learn, basically word for word. And in fact, probably out of the 15, there's probably only 1 book that you really needed to understand, and that was about it. So the rest of it was just useless knowledge for no reason. In terms of books, I love understanding the thought process and creativity behind individuals. So Richard Branson was a great advocate of mine, and one of his books was Business. I think it's Business Stripped Bare. That was really good. That's where he really went back to the basics of how he started his businesses and the way he created the businesses the way he did, the problems he had along the way. And, I wouldn't say Richard Branson is an influence to me. There's somebody that's more of an influence to me in life. But I do like Richard Branson and what he stands for and the way he conducts his business. The other one is going into the aviation industry. I remember when I was a child loving aviation, becoming an aviation spotter, scaling the fences with my fingers through the fence, looking through, wow, this is amazing. I remember seeing EasyJet when they first started, and all they had was an old 737-200. It was a big orange tail fin with the word EasyJet on it, and down the side would be a massive 0844 number or an 0845 number. And I couldn't understand the concept. Why would you just plaster your number along the side? And as I started going through the history of low-cost airlines, I find them fascinating from a business perspective. And there was a book, it was called EasyJet, How It Began. And it was a fantastic book because Stelios, who owned the airline at the time, and he still is, I think he's a chief executive of the airline now. I think a non-direct executive now, I think. And he started with money and donations from his family to create this airline. And they all said he was crazy. I mean, but let's think it. Stripping back the free peanuts, stripping back the free drinks, using the overhead lockers for space for advertising, to the back seats of the headrests to advertise, to have your in-flight magazine all about advertising. He took something very, very, very lucrative and made it very, very successful. And the brand, as the EasyJet brand, or the Easy brand, obviously you have the Easy Hotels, Easy transfers, etc., it really does work exceptionally well. And I followed the low-cost industry very well, from Buzz through to EasyJet, through to the Virgin Reds, all the way through to the Ryanairs. And they have a really good business motto. And I love that book and learning about it. And I wish some of the other low-cost airlines would create books and write books so that we can understand their ethos, because it's such a magnificent way of doing it. And the other one is Earth and space. I'm a great lover of space and the stars and our solar system, and a great believer that we are not the only ones that are out there. I'm not saying there's aliens. I'm not saying there's UFOs flying about. But what I'm saying is I cannot see in our solar system that we can be the only living source. It's got to be impossible. And you then have our solar system that goes beyond ours. And I can't help but think that there must be another situation where there must be another planet somewhere that houses inhabitants that we just don't know about. And they're asking the same questions in sense of, are we the only ones? And we're not. We can't be. But I love the mystery around it. So I like reading, Earth and space, so I can try and understand a little bit more about our solar system, a little bit more about our world, our planet, our celestial world. So yeah, a little bit of a huge mix there, actually. But they're just things that I only read what I'm interested in.
This is brilliant. And there's, yes, certain things like what you say about Richard Branson, totally agree. When I set up my first company, I wrote to Richard Branson to see if he'd invest. And he always dictates personally what the response was. And he came back, it's when he first went into the space travel, when they were looking at that. And he said, love my idea. He gave me all the best wishes in the world, but he was working on the space travel. But it just meant so much to me that he took time out to everyone that reached out to him and actually answer. And again, with the travel, when I do the commute back and forth from the Midlands to London, I'll always use the Virgin trains. And I was so disappointed when they lost the franchise, because I'd sit there, this is me being a bit of a snob maybe, I'd sit in first class, I'd know all the staff, they talked to me every day, and I used to promote everything through my Twitter account if there was something for Virgin. So yes, everything you're saying there, completely agree, and I love it. And the whole idea about the marketing ethos, you and I as communicators understand where you put a message so that people will see it, and how many times they need to see something for it to actually instill in your brain to know to go forward. But everything you've said and the whole idea of there being life elsewhere, completely agree with everything you've said there. So there's a couple of books I'm going to have to put on my list, so I will be adding to that. So definitely, but yes, absolutely love that. I'm now going to move on to this, and I think you've touched on it slightly earlier. Who would you say are your key influencers and why, Craig?
Okay, so yeah, I haven't touched on it actually. I would say my key influence. There's only one person that's influenced me in my life, and I'm very specific in the way I do things in life. In fact, as a whole, I'm very specific. So I do things the way I do things because I'm comfortable with the way I do them. I will only do things that I want to do because I want to do them, not because somebody tells me to do them. And when people tell me I can't do it, I'll then prove them wrong. And I remember I had the great pleasure of spending about 6 hours with John Travolta personally on a one-to-one. And I remember that the conversations were so diverse. There was John Travolta, there was his son Jet at that time, and we were sat on his 707 aircraft, the Jet Clipper, and it's N707JT is the registration for those of you who are interested in your planes. And I remember sitting on the plane for 6 hours when he was on a layover. He'd flown into Stansted, and I was sat there on the plane with him, and it was probably one of the my most poignant moments in my life, because as you can imagine, doing the job that I do, I've met a number of wealthy and celebrities around the world, and for me, this was very poignant because he was so authentic. He was so himself. There was no airs. There was no graces. He'd be walking around with no socks and shoes on. He'd have his shirt undone. And he'd have one face for the media, and he'd have one face for everyone else. And it was the one face for everyone else that I really, really enjoyed. And he gave me some great tips and gave me some great advice on life. He said, never become famous, because if you become famous, you lose any personality or any personal stuff you have in your life. Your life becomes an open book to the world. He said, so unless you're ready for that, try not to be famous at all. And he gave me lots of tips, and I won't tell you what tips they were, because a lot of his tips that he gave me is what I use today, and that's what empowers me, instills me to be the way I am. There are some people that you will work with or meet in life that will be led, and then there are the leaders. And if you can be led, then you're not doing stuff that you want to do for yourself. Whereas if you take control of your own life and your own destiny, you make it what you make it. Therefore, you can't blame anyone else. So if you've had a crap hand at business, if you've taken control of that, it turned out to be that because that's how you've allowed it to go. And, you know, there's lots of good things that he taught me and helped me with. And he is definitely an influence for me in my life.
Absolutely wonderful. And where you've said that, the leaders and the followers, the amount of times I will say I will never be a sheep. And I can remember saying that from a young child. I'll always be a leader for someone to follow. I'm not going to follow someone else, because 9 times out of 10 they don't know where they're going, and I can do it better than they can. So, but yes, lovely, fantastic, the messages that you're bringing through there. I'm now going to ask the longest question I've got on this interview. They're going to have to take a great big deep breath for this one. If you could share a great meal with anyone, alive or dead, what would the meal be and who would it be with?
That one's quite an easy one. So, I mean, you've spoken to me a few times now, Pearl, obviously through Serenity Radio, and you know, there's another presenter that's coming on board, Liz Rotherham, and she said to me, she basically thought I had a stick up my bum, and I live a life with a certain way of doing things, but that's because that's just the way I am, and I've suffered with mental health myself. I've suffered with weight issues. I've suffered with being bullied. So I've gone through a lot of negativity in my life. So there are normally 2 sides to me. One is the business side that you see is the very corporate, the very formal. And there's the other side, which is the joke and the jovial. And I very rarely, I guess the moral of the story is that I very rarely share personal stuff with individuals that I don't necessarily know or have not been part of my life for some time. So what I'm sharing with you now is very, very personal. And that is my grandparents. My nanny and my granddad, Richardson, were my entire world. And I only had one set of grandparents. And they were my entire world. And, you know, things that I've done in life and things I've achieved, I wish they could only see what I've done now, because my nan and my gramps would be very, very proud of me. So I would love, if I could trade anything in life, it would be to just have a car journey to Felixstowe Docks with a cod and chips, a tub of gravy, sitting in the Citroen Picasso that my granddad drove, sitting at the dockside, watching the big container vessels being unloaded, and just talking about absolute nonsense. If I could trade anything in the world for that, I'd give it in a heartbeat. I miss them dearly. You know, it's hard.
This is what I'm seeing time and time again with each and every one of my guests, and this is why I know we all resonate and why we have the synchronicities. The amount of people that say family or certain members of family and have a meal. Quite often they're saying a roast dinner or a Christmas dinner, but it's having a meal that has that home comforts. And it is, and this is where I know I'm talking to the right people and the people that I want to be in my life. And I think that's what the listeners want. You don't want people that are suddenly saying all these. Yeah, a few people will say, a famous person that they'd love to sit and have a meal with. But if you know you want to be with your family, that shows just how much care and support and love that there is with that person. And that's where it just, again, you're just confirming just how special you are and how it's great to have you on as a guest, because it's exactly what all the special people in my life say. They all say exactly the same thing, which I'm going to say a massive thank you to you, because it's so special to know that. I'm going to move on I'm going to put the last two questions together as one. Now, what services or items do you offer to your clients or customers? And do you have any special offers at present? Now, you cover so many fantastic things, Craig. This is where I can shout how great Serenity is, but like you say, there's so many other things that you do. So what could you share here for your clients and customers?
So for Serenity, we give you a voice, and that's what we do. We give you a voice and a platform to listen, to learn, to educate, and to engage. And it's very difficult to understand that we've only been 10 weeks down the line, and the listeners that we've had thus far has been absolutely fantastic. And we're only going to improve and get better and better. Yeah. So I guess what services we offer to our listeners is that we give you a platform to learn and educate and connect with like-minded people. We also try and help you along a personal journey of self-discovery, and we want to give you an outlet where you can come and enjoy the content and interact with our presenters and learn more about them. We also have the Serenity support pages at the bottom of our website. So if you go to the bottom of our website, which is www.serenityradio.co.uk, there is the Serenity support. And there we have a enormous list of support pages, numbers through Mind, through to the Samaritans, through to Alcoholics Anonymous. Whatever situation you might be going through in your personal life, let me reassure you now that you are not the only people or the only person to be going through it. There are thousands of people that suffer with addiction, with personal loss, whether it be personal attacks to them, their family, racial abuse, whatever the case may be, you are not alone. And Serenity is going to be there to help and support you. So there are plenty of people there. And if there's not somebody there that's listed there, drop us a message on our contact form, and we'll put you in touch with the right people that can help you at the time. In terms of businesses and coaches and practitioners, we can only survive if people are advertising with us. And we have a range of advertising packages available. And we're not like any corporate commercial radio stations that will charge you thousands and thousands of pounds to advertise. We don't think that people should be paying thousands of pounds to get their business promoted or get their voice heard. We can give you that opportunity, and our cheapest package is from £40 a month, and that's a banner on our website, and we have thousands of people that come to our website every single month. So you're guaranteed to be seen, and the more you're seen, the more people are going to want to interact with you, and that's similar to like our presenters and our shows. You know, our shows are 12-week programs, but actually within 12 weeks, you're only just starting to get heard by people coming in regularly. It's going beyond that people start going, yes, I love this show, or yes, I resonate with the show all the time. And then people will start feeling more close. It's more like a friendship. They start feeling that friendship. They're going to connect. So for businesses and coaches and practitioners and support services, charities, come and advertise with us. From £40, it's really a no-brainer. And you can find out more on our website, as I said, serenityradio.co.uk/advertising. You can see more and more about what we can do to help your business. And we're all about helping small and medium enterprises grow your business and grow it effectively. And we work with you to get the best maximized results.
And I can confirm every single one of those things, because that's exactly what you and Michelle are doing with me. Anyone that knows about the new Pearls of Wisdom logo, it's you guys that designed it, and I'm doing a massive shout out for that. And every time when I do share it, I always try and tag you guys in so that they will know you are building me my new website that's all about Pearls of Wisdom. Because yes, I can build websites, but like we said before, sometimes you don't have time when you're doing everything else. And it's always good to share and learn from other people. And everything you've said, I can say the difference and the impact that Serenity has had on my life. I know when I did the interview with Michelle, and I didn't expect to get upset and all tearful, but it meant so much. You have completely changed my life. Yes, I had a large network and I could connect with people beforehand, but you helped me really nail what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And it's the Serenity family. The presenters I've met are some of my best friends now, and I feel like I've known them all my life. And that's a massive thank you to you and Michelle.
You know what? It's lovely to hear that, Pearl, and thank you very much. And you know what? You are, since we started this project at Serenity, you are one of a number of people that we've spoken to who have said that Serenity, before they didn't know what direction they wanted to go into. Or which direction they were going, or they've been in a stalemate. And what happened is Serenity has given them a new lease of life to relook at their life and put them on another route and another journey. And this is just making more and more history for you and for everyone else, is that we will share you with our knowledge, we share with you our wisdom, we will share with you our ways of doing things and from our personal journey and stories. And if we can, as I said earlier, make one change, we're doing what we wanted to do. And that is just really make a difference. And that's what we are doing. And it seems, by what you're saying and others are saying, that we are making a difference, which is really pleasing.
It's brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. And we've come to the end of all the questions. And I will ask you now, I know you are busy, but I would love to ask you back as a guest, because you've got so much information and knowledge. And I think everyone can learn. From what you've shared today, we can all learn and add a bit extra into our lives by what you've shared. So I just want to say a massive, massive thank you.
You're welcome, Pearl. And I'd love to come back and help you out on another podcast. If there's anything specifically you want to go through, then we can happily go through that, and we can do a separate one. As a parting gift, I know Michelle gave you an offer for your first podcast that you did with Michelle. I'd like to extend a different offer from myself and the Serenity team. So I guess we have the lovely Pearls of Wisdom retreat coming up, which we are obviously sponsors of, and you can see all about the sponsorship on our website. So, you know, we've got banners. You can hear the advert for the Pearls of Wisdom retreats on our radio station and on our blog page. So I guess what we'll do is we will anybody who purchases a ticket from the Serenity Radio website. So you can go to serenityradio.co.uk and learn more and buy your tickets from the Serenity Radio. What we'll do is we'll do a unique package to all of those that purchase, that if they want to have their business advertised on the radio, we will create them an advert for the radio station live for free. And for £99, you guys can have that played for an entire month on our radio station. And for those of you who look at our website, you will see that's a good couple of £100 saving right there.
Oh, that is.
But that's only open to people that buy tickets from the Serenity Radio website for the Pearls of Wisdom retreats.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much, Craig. That is absolutely wonderful. And I can vouch for the amount of impact that the marketing through Serenity has. It's phenomenal. It really is. Thank you so much.
You're more than welcome, Pearl.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Pearls of Wisdom podcast. We hope you have enjoyed the content shared. Please share with others who would like to enjoy these interviews and discussions. If you would like to support the podcast, please follow the link in the episode description. If you want to be a guest on the show, reach out and let's discuss next steps. Until the next time, enjoy your listening.